Alright, welcome back folks. This is Steve, and this video is a little different than my normal, but a lot of you had asked for this. You wanted to see the images, and so I figured I'd toss this thing together for you. This is the North Metro Model Railroad Club. It is a 5,000 square foot HO gauge model railroad, and there will be a link to their Facebook page in the description down below. This is based off of a Minnesota prototype, and throughout some of these pictures you will find things like Brainerd. And this is the switches for the Brainerd area, the nice control panel. There is a paintbrush for scale to kind of show you what they're working with. So you'll find things like Brainerd here. You'll find other parts of Minnesota that you might recognize if you've been out here. And these guys take some really good detailed pictures of the area and then try to model them. And you will find some vintage electronics in this video, and you will also find some radios in this video. And bonus points if you can count the number of radios in the video and leave a comment down below. This club does operating nights where they stand at different locations throughout the layout. This right here is a paper mill. Somebody actually made a web roll paper mill manufacturing plant. The people will stand at different operating locations throughout the layout, and they will actually run a compressed timetable and move trains of passengers and freight from different locations on the layout. This was a pretty neat little display they had set up of a logging operation. Some detail on the mountains and some fencing that holds the falling rocks back from landing on the train tracks. A little guy out in his Jeep camping. I'm sure he's got his ham shack, portable ham shack in there ready to roll, make some contacts. This here is Duluth, some more switches. There's a little spot there for a tasty beverage and what cars to move where. This is inside of a factory. If you take a good look at some of these pictures, you'll notice that they've actually gone through all the trouble to do some weathering. This is a quarry, and they've actually got a water pump that pumps water out of the bottom of the quarry. Sorry, wrong video. There's some weathering on these cars. They did some dust splattering and mud and so forth. This is a pretty neat little waterfall, and I've got a different perspective of this picture coming up here, looking under this bridge and up, and they just did an absolutely fantastic job on this. And as you're walking through the area, not only do you get to see a bunch of different things like this old pile of scrap metal that the machines are processing, and old rail cars that they're pushing off into the scrap metal pit, but you also get to hear all of the rail sounds from the different pieces of equipment. This is a bridge that is not finished, and this is what it looks like. This is a in-progress model. There is rolling stock above grade. There's stuff up in the air flying around. There's stuff under the bench. This is a intermodal freight system. This is the Northern Cold Storage Company. First sighting of Thomas the Tank Engine. Every layout needs to have a Thomas the Tank Engine. This is the glue can holder. Don't throw this thing away, folks. Some more weathered cars for you. And they even did some weathering on the engines. And we looked really hard to find some graffiti, and then we didn't find any, so we asked them about it. The old roundhouse for the old steam engines. Some more work in progress. Building the mountains out of the pink styrofoam insulation boards. Some of the switch work that they do. You push the button and it changes the track, and then it changes the LEDs to indicate which direction the switch is going in. Some more intermodal freight. Some of the wiring that they're running underneath. It's like some old phone wires or some thermostat wires, some pretty low voltage stuff. Here's a Quad LNS from the Tam Valley. You can go to depot.com and see those guys. They've got a couple of these little circuit boards. This is the Frog Juicer from Tam Valley at depot.com. I don't know what these things do, but they're pretty neat. They have the sidings labeled. That was 190 and 191. It's a good view looking down the layout. I mean, the scale of this building is just enormous. Like I said, it's 5,000 square feet. There's a baofeng for the yard. A couple of Easter eggs throughout the layout. What modern model railroad wouldn't be complete without some Amazon Prime vans? Or an old Volkswagen Beetle. And this is a Minnesota railroad, so of course it has Culvers. There was also a McDonald's earlier, but you see more Culvers out here. And this was a private line, and I think they were still working on some of the paint jobs. Check out the lights on these grain elevators. I think these are grain elevators. I guess it's that or it's cement, huh? Another look at the electronics under the bench. This water was pretty good. I think I have another perspective on this one. They did a fantastic job on modeling the waterways. And this had two different bridges going over top of it. I just love the detail and the creativity that goes into making something like this. And I really appreciate how they made it local so you can have a little bit of a connection. Here's a little bit of a beauty shot trying to work some camera angle magic on this. And I loved how this one was actually under construction and had construction equipment that was doing the construction. If you take a look at some of these photos that they have laying out on the workbench here, you can see that they're actually trying to model this plant. And the photos don't line up with where they're sitting the models on the layout. Becca made a comment of this, that we're on the wrong side of the track since we're on the back side of the building. So it takes half a second or so to look at these pictures and then reorient yourself on the layout and figure out which picture goes with which view of the model. But these guys are doing a fantastic job. Some more heavy construction equipment doing the heavy construction there. And they had some video cameras shot under the layout so that you could see if there was any derailments or anything that needed some work there. Tried for another beauty shot here and the camera focused on the wrong thing, but it was still a good shot at the end of the day. This is the Coon Rapids area. There's some more construction here. So you'll see this picture here on the layout, and then you'll see the building off to the left of it. And they did a fantastic job of making that look proper and look right. And the perspective on that is backwards from where you're standing on the layout, but still a fantastic job. Bald eagle in a nest. When I moved out here, that was one of the things that I really noticed. There's a tank car that fell off the tracks and they just haven't had a chance to get it back yet. That there are a lot of bald eagles in this area. I grew up in Maryland and there's hardly any bald eagles in the area. Some more running water down underneath of this massive bridge. Some of the water running around the base of the bridge there. And that's made in America, a nice little piece of PVC that they're using for the stacks at the grain elevator. This was great. Some sunbathers out on the pier, little man fishing at the end of the pier there. Enjoying their up north cabin. And these two guys just mooning them from the other side of the lake. Perfect. This is modeling the Milwaukee Road Depot. Some more radios for the yard. One of the video cameras that they're using. A couple of beehives that we saw on the second walkthrough that we didn't see on the first walkthrough. Lots of little stuff to see that you just won't make on one visit. You got to come back multiple times. Lots and lots and lots and lots of freight cars. Some roadbed building in progress. Digitracks for monitoring track status. And they've got this thing all figured out with the computers and all mapped out. And right next door to that is some more radios and a little repair bench. This was a computer that they'd built into a slide-out desk so that it didn't get ran into too often. This is a 3D printed switcher. And it looks to be, if I remember correctly, it was a little bit bigger than O gauge, but I didn't have my calipers with me. Fantastic weathering job on that CSX car. Another good weathering job on the chassis car there. This was in the bathroom. Engineer parking only. This is an over-under setup that's going around the outside wall. Life-size boulders strapped down to rolling stock. One of the painting stations. And this was pretty neat. This was a connection that would connect the main layout to the around the wall layout. And here's the other side. When we saw this, we didn't understand why the track seemed to have folded back on itself and went nowhere. We realized that it's on these two piano hinges here. Both of those would fold out of the outside of this helix and then connect to the main layout. So you could move tracks both up and down on the outside layout and then move them from the main layout to the side layout. Pretty slick little design there. And of course they recycle. Lots and lots of batteries to go through on all those different control devices. And this was underneath. So we've got a left and right view of underneath the layout, and they did multiple levels underneath as well. Put a couple of buildings there. And this just went from one end of the building to the other underneath the main layout. So there was room. He gave me a number, and it was an astonishing number of cars that they could just stage underneath the layout. In case you were wondering how they did all that wiring, they had a shopping cart full of wire that they had wheeled around and were able to unload wire from. and they are accepting donations. That's why we were there today. We had donated some old scenery materials, new in box, but unopened and unused. Still have some more kits to build. If you're itching for a kit to build, I'm sure they'd be happy to have you come down and join up. And this was underneath. I mean, this is a pretty massive operation to be putting underneath of the layout as opposed to like front and center to gather all the attention. It's a coal barge with a couple of tugboats that could push it around. And then this is back at that paper mill that we saw at the beginning of the video. The whole office set up. People just working, old roll-top desks, and very, very good attention to detail. Some of the aforementioned over the railroad, in the air type things. A couple of airplanes flying through the clouds. And they've even modeled some construction work that they're doing. Construction work that the people in the railroad are doing. Here's some folks cutting down trees for a new set of power lines, high tension lines to run through, and that was the steel girders for holding it up. We thought we had seen our first graffiti sighting, but that was actually corn. This here is entirely 3D printed and hand painted and put together, including all the lights and everything that run down there. And in this scene, the guy's changing a light bulb that's out. I want to thank you guys for being here, and thanks for watching.